So wholesaling is what we're going to be focused on in this class, which again is nothing more than putting a property in the contract, which gives you equitable rights. Write that down. That gives you equitable rights and interests in that property. It makes you a principal in the transaction, which allows you to do whatever you want with that deal. You have two options here. You can close on that house yourself and do whatever you want with it at that point, either keep it as a rental property or fix it up and flip it, or you can sell your interest in that piece of paper, that agreement, to a third party where you make money on that deal. The difference between what you have the property on the contract for and what you sell your contract for to the buyer is how much you make on that deal. Now, I want to make sure you caught that. Notice I'm not saying sell the house. Notice I'm saying sell the deal, market the deal. Write this down. This is very important. It's a compliance thing that you need to be mindful of. You can only market what you own and what you control. Write that down. You can only market what you own and what you control. Okay, that is very important. We're not selling the house. We're not marketing the house. We're marketing our piece of paper, our purchase agreements. This is what you own and control at this point. Okay, very, very important. Now, here's why I love wholesaling. These are the benefits. Regardless if you do this business part-time or full-time, there's a lot of money to be made in this business because of the profit, right? It's real estate. The profit potential is very high. So with the average profit being around $10,000, even if you do one deal a month, doing this part-time, that's still a six-figure a year type of opportunity, okay? And I love wholesaling because you make profits very quickly. There's minimal personal risk to you. You don't have to worry about rehabs or renovation, which means you don't need to have construction knowledge or know-how. And there's very little capital needed. In many cases, you can get started with no capital, which I'm also going to teach you in this class as well. Now, let's talk about the ABCs of wholesaling. This is very important. Pay attention to this. A, whenever you hear me mention A, I'm talking about the homeowner, the person who actually owns said property, right? The person who actually owns the property. So this is the homeowner or seller. So person A will always represent the seller. Now, person B is going to represent you, the middle person, the wholesaler, the real estate investor, right? So person B is you, the real estate investor / wholesaler. Person C is going to be, person C is going to be the end buyer. This is the person that you're going to be flipping your deal to. This is the person that's going to be funding the transaction, right? So A is the seller, B is you, the real estate investor / wholesaler, and C is the end buyer, the person that's actually going to buy this deal from you. So knowing that, anytime you hear me mention AB transaction or AB closing or AB contract or anything AB related, know that I am talking about the transaction between you, the real estate investor / wholesaler, and the homeowner, the seller, okay? Anytime you hear me say BC, BC transaction, BC closing, BC agreement, BC contract, BC anything, I'm talking about the transaction between you, the real estate investor / wholesaler, and the end buyer, okay? So let's take a look at this example right here. This is a simple example of a wholesale transaction. So you are person B in the middle. You are the wholesaler. And through different lead generation marketing strategy that we're going to teach you today, you were able to find a motivated seller that needed to sell their property. Through negotiations and through conversation with them, you realize, man, their house could be worth, in a perfect condition, $250,000. That is called the ARV. Write that down. ARV means after repaired value. Write that down. That's also in your glossary as well. But ARV means after repaired value. It is what the house could be worth if it was in perfect condition. All right. So when you see those numbers on sites like Zillow and so forth, what those sites say the value of the house is, it's not the value of what the house is today. It's the value of what the house could be in perfect condition. All right. So that is the ARV. So through conversation with the seller and through your own due diligence research, you realize, man, this house could be worth 250 grand. But through conversation with that seller, you realize, man, this house also needs a lot of work. It needs a new roof, it needs AC, it needs a new garage door, landscaping, painting, you name it, flooring, all of it. And so you realize because of the amount of work needed to bring this house up to par, make it perfect, it needs a lot of work. And because of that, you're going to offer the seller a cash offer of $150,000. So you send over an agreement through DocuSign or through some electronic signature type of software, and you send that offer to that seller. They get it instantly in their email. You review the agreement with them, go over all of the terms. And again, we're going to teach you how to do this on day 3 of this class. You go over all of the terms. They like the agreement. They like the terms. They like the price, the offer price. And so they sign digitally on their phone, iPad, or computer. They sign digitally that agreement to sell you their property. Once they sign that agreement, you instantly get what's called equitable rights and interest in that property. You now have the legal right and authority to do whatever you want. In this example, you went ahead and decided to assign your contract to a third party. So this first agreement here is the purchase agreement between you and the seller. This is the AB contract, okay? Then you are now assigning your contract, your interest in this deal, to a third party buyer in this wholesale strategy. So now this agreement here changes. This is now an assignment contract. This is one example of a BC agreement. There are 2 different BC agreements. We're going over one of them right now. So this is your assignment contract where you are assigning your rights and interests in this deal to a third party. So in this example, you are buying this property for $150,000 from the seller. You decided to market this deal for $165,000 to the public. A couple of buyers raised their hand and said, hey, I have interest in your deal. They went to take a look at the deal, inspect the property. They came back to you and said, you know what? I love this deal. I love this property. I see that the value could be worth $250,000 once it's fixed up and in perfect condition. And I can buy this deal for $165,000. It's an amazing deal. It's a great deal. Let's go ahead and execute a deal, a contract for me to buy this property from you. And so they execute the assignment contract. They put down a deposit as well to secure that contract. And when this deal closes, on the day of closing, the buyer is going to close with $165,000, whether it's their money or from a lender. And once it closes, you, the wholesaler, the real estate investor, gets the difference between the $150,000 and the $165,000, where in this example, you make $15,000 on this deal. And realize you didn't have to use your own cash because you didn't buy the house, right? You're not buying the house. So you didn't need to use your own cash. So it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account. You didn't need to pull your credit or run your credit because we're not taking out a loan. And you didn't have to rehab the property because we're simply selling the house in as-is condition. You didn't need a license. So none of that mattered. And you're able to walk away with a $15,000 payday. Pretty sexy, right? Simply by being the middle person, simply by being the connector, finding a great deal that buyers in that particular marketplace are already buying at a certain price, but you found a similar property to what buyers are already buying, but at a cheaper price than what they're buying it for. And you just added on a couple dollars to match what they're already paying for that same asset, and you make the difference on that deal. Pretty sexy, right? Pretty cool, pretty simple. It's a pretty simple process. Now, let me show you how to even further minimize your risk here. You guys want this tip? How many of you want to learn how to even further minimize your risk here? Let me see in the chat real quick. I want to make sure you guys paying attention. How many of you want the tip? How many of you want this tip here? Let me see in the chat. You want it? I want to show you how to further minimize your risk. Let's go. Yes, I want it. Give it to me. All right, absolutely. Let's go. Teach me. All right. So check this out. This gets even crazier. This strategy, another way to wholesale, is called co-wholesaling, also known as JV or joint venture. Write that down. Co-wholesaling also means joint venture or JV. So anytime you hear any of those 3 terms, co-wholesaling, joint venture, or JV for short, it all means the same thing. Now check this out. Notice person A over here is no longer the actual homeowner. Person A over here now switches to what we call an acquisitions wholesaler. So essentially what happened here is another wholesaler in the same marketplace. And for those of you that need to start with free options or very little capital, this is very important for you to pay attention to. Okay, do not miss this. All right, so this is where another wholesaler working in the same marketplace as you has already spent their time, their money, and effort to go find a motivated seller. They did all the heavy lifting. They did all the grunt work. They negotiated with the seller already. They made an offer. They got the seller to sign a contract. So they have an amazing, sexy deal under contract already. And all you did is contacted that wholesaler because you see them marketing the deal, or maybe you built a relationship with them prior to, and you reached out to that wholesaler and said, hey, listen, I have buyers that are already looking for deals, amazing deals, but unfortunately, I don't have any properties or deals in my inventory right now. Would it be okay with you if I market your deal to my buyers to see if they're interested in this deal? Does that make sense? You guys following along? Now, where would you get those buyers from? I know some of you are saying to yourself, well, Dolmar, this sounds great, but where the hell am I going to get buyers from? Does anyone know? Can anyone? There you go, Austin. You freaking smart, Austin. Right? All of you have instant access right now to buyers already looking for deals in your app. Remember, these are buyers who bought deals in the last 30, 60, 90 days. Remember Denise, who we talked about earlier, did exactly this. Found a deal inside the app. Found a buyer inside the app. Put the two together as a connector. Made $17,000 on that deal, right? All of you right now have buyers already looking for deals inside the app. All you have to do is play matchmaker. That's it. So here you find a wholesaler that already did all the heavy lifting, has an amazing deal on the contract. You approach them, see if they're open to allowing you to sell their deal, market their deal to your buyers. And if your buyer is interested, you make money on that deal as well. Now,